been 6 months and I can safely say that this guitar is I've always wanted a PRS guitar. You know, it's one of those guitars you'd go into a guitar shop, you'd look behind the wall, all the PRSs were back there, you'd look at them and go, oh, one day I'll afford a PRS. Right now, not so much, but one day I'll get there. Maybe if I do a couple more gigs, I'm gonna be able to afford a PRS. But it was always that unicorn. It was always that mythical creature that out of your reach or can't quite get to, or one day that's my dream guitar. Some of my favorite all-time guitarists are PRS artists. Mark Lettieri, Dave Grissom, Mark Tremonti, Rob Harris, John Mayer, the list goes on and on. The reality is, subliminally, I've had PRS on the brain for a very long time. And this is predating the new metal time where all the new metal guys were using a PRS guitar, and you know, some of the all-time artists, I think at the time, 20, 25 years ago, Santana was one of the only ones, was possibly one of the only ones, maybe Al Di Meola came into the phase that started having that signature set. Now we see so many signature artists, but we also see a lot of variety in the type of musicians that are playing the PRS instruments. Has this guitar made me play like any of my favorite guitarists? Absolutely not. But it's now been 6 months since I've had the PRS SE Custom 2408. And here are my findings from the last 6 months. First of all, let's start with what I really love about the instrument. Firstly, and for me being a working musician, it's comfortable to play, and that's important. There's nothing worse than standing there doing 3 45-minute sets, depending on where you are, sometimes 4 if you get coaxed into it or you get paid enough of the time. It's really important to have an instrument that's comfortable, and not just to be sitting here in a studio or sitting somewhere on the couch. That's important to do that while you are watching Netflix. It's just as important to be doing that while you're also performing, because if you do perform multiple nights a week, you need something that is going to be comfortable to play. Not just how it sits on your body, but how comfortable it is when you play, how the bevel sits in your arm whilst you're picking. All of those things play a big part on why this guitar is really comfortable to play. I touched on it a second ago, it's lightweight. I was actually surprised. A lot of the PRSs I've picked up in the past have been quite heavy. This is one of the sole reasons why I've never been a Gibson user. I love the sound of a Les Paul. They're just too heavy for me to be playing on the stage consistently. So it's important to have something that's lightweight. That's one of the tests that I'll do. If I see a guitar that I like, the first thing I'll do is I'll pick it up for the weight. And if it is the most stunning looking guitar in the world, but it's really heavy, I'll put it back in the shelf. It needs to be of a weight that's comfortable for me to be able to play, and something that I can use every single day or every single night when I'm practicing or playing live or recording or doing whatever it is. It needs to be a nice comfortable weight. The next one for me, and I know you'll all attest to this, like any new gear that we get, is that this instrument is addictive. I can't put it down. It's something I keep going back to and keep playing. I have my old faithful instruments, whether it's my acoustic stuff for my live looping. I'm very much a Strat guy, so I love going back to my Strat. It's like home base. But this PRS is addictive. It's hard to put down, and it's something I feel like I'm playing different styles of music every time I pick it up. You know, I'll pick it up one day and I'll go straight to the single coil sound and I'll use a funk sound, or I'll be using for some more heavier stuff, or drop tunings or alternate tunings or whatever it might be. But either way, you want an instrument that inspires you. And this guitar, when you pick it up, it does that. It makes you play differently. And that's what it's all about, right? It's exploring new opportunities. It's being comfortable with the opportunities you already have in your realms of your musicianship, but it's also about, how do I get better? This guitar makes me play better, and that's awesome. The other pro, which, let's be honest, it's looks. This guitar looks shit hot. It's something that looks great on stage. It looks good just sitting here when I'm looking at it in the studio. I get compliments on it, and because it is an entry-level guitar with a veneer, I'm not paying the big money that you would pay for a full US PRS. It's flashy for me anyway. There are definitely a lot flashier guitars out there, but to have a pretty top or a beautiful top on there, that's not something I normally gravitate to, and this guitar looks amazing. Now to my cons, what I haven't liked over the last 6 months. The first one being the tuners. Now if you looked at my first video, I'll put the link up here for you, I actually changed the tuners out, or better still, I got the guys at the guitar shop to change the tuners out, because the SE PRS guitars are renowned for their tuning issues, particularly with those tuners. So I actually got that changed across to the locking tuners. So it was a con if I didn't get it sorted. To be honest, it's a pro, because I got it figured out before I got the guitar. They fixed that for me, and that makes a massive difference. A good friend of mine who also has the identical instrument in a different color did not change them out, and is constantly having to fix the tuning, particularly with the weather where I am in Australia. We've got humidity, we've got the heat. There's nothing that's wavering with the tuning, and that's a big, big plus for me. Most importantly, when you're playing live. I'm not constantly fiddling with the tuners, because these tuners are sound on the instrument. The next con, the coil split. The conundrum. I've always looked at guitars with coil splits and thought, geez, that'd be nice to be able to have a nice single coil on tap with a humbucker. The reality is this doesn't work for me. And the reason why this doesn't work is the single coil sound is not quite there. I don't know if that's because I'm a Strat person and I play a Strat predominantly most of the time now, but that single coil sound just doesn't hit the mark. Does it do a good job of emulating? Sure. If anything, probably the best function of the single coil on this one is it dials back the pickups, because the pickups in this are very hot. And to put that back to a single coil sound means you are bringing that back a little bit and putting it into the realm of what's more comfortable for me. Remember, this is my preference and you might be completely different when you try the instrument out. But I'm of the thought of a single coil. If you want a single coil guitar, and what I've learned over the last 6 months, play a single coil. If you want a humbucker guitar, play a humbucker. If you need both for a gig, take 2 guitars, or what I've done in the past and traditionally is what I'm used to, is a HSS guitar. This split coil system doesn't work for me, and that's unfortunate. I really, really wanted it to work. It doesn't. The other con for me is really about the overall sound. It's not the sound in my head. Now that sounds bizarre, because I know you're probably going, well, you're an idiot. That could be the amp, it could be what you're playing through, it could be your pedal board, it could be amp sims, it could be anything to do with how you're playing it. It's not the sound in my head. Have you ever picked up a guitar before and plugged it in to any amplifier? This doesn't have to be your favorite amplifier, it can be any amplifier that you pick up and you go, that's the sound in my head. That's what I hear when I think of a PRS guitar. It's really hard to explain, but this instrument isn't the sound in my head. I love the sound of it, and I've really grown to love what this particular guitar does, but it's not the sound in my head. It's not what I expect of a PRS, and it's not quite where I want it to be. I actually think an easy fix for this would be to change out the pickups, which I'm probably going to do. Being that I'm not happy with the pickups, I'm not happy with the split coil, I'm more than likely going to change them out. Something that's not as high as output as these ones that are on there at the moment, and I'm going to put 2 humbuckers in that will suit my taste, and I think that's probably going to do it. That will do it for me, what I need to get that sound. But right now with the stock pickups, it's not the sound in my head. In the comments section, let us know if you own this guitar, what your thoughts are. Are you loving the guitar? Are you happy with the sound? Are you not happy and looking at selling it? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. So what would I change if I was buying this guitar over again? As I mentioned, I changed the locking tuners, which I already did. The next thing I would change would be the pickups. I'd get something that was of a medium output. Now I think these ones are still listed as a medium output from my memory. Don't quote me on that, but they're still too hot for my liking. You almost get a brittle sound on certain instances with this that I don't like. It needs to be a little bit more rounded off for my liking. And remember, this is my personal liking. You might plug this in and think this guitar absolutely sings, and that's awesome. You need to check it out. You need to plug it in for yourself and hear what the sound is in your head that's translating through the instrument. That's it though. That's all I would change. Everything else, I'm really, really happy with the instrument. And that's quite rare for me because I do love to go through different guitars to try. Just making sure my wife's not listening. Just joking, honey. I haven't bought a guitar for years. Shit. But again, this all comes down to your personal preference. You need to be the one that falls in love with the instrument. You need to be the one that picks up the guitar, puts a massive smile on your face, you play through it and you go, do you know what? This is the one. So my advice to you, first of all, don't buy this guitar if you are looking for a jack of all trades. I know that the split coil system is marketed as a single coil, that split sound Can you get a bit of a Mark Knopfler, John Mayer twang from this in the in-between? Sure, you can, absolutely. If you want a Mark Knopfler or John Mayer twang, go and buy a Strat. If you want to play heavy down-tuned riffs, go and buy any humbucker equipped guitar that's going to get you to that point. My advice is don't buy this as a jack of all trades. Buy this guitar if you like the sound that this guitar produces. If you want a humbucker and a single coil, invest in 2 guitars if that's what you need for your own purposes. But don't buy this guitar because you feel like it's going to cover all the bases, because the reality is, for me, it doesn't actually do that. However, you should buy this guitar if you want the PRS pedigree, if you want a beautifully made instrument, if you want something that's inspiring, and probably most importantly affordable, you have to get this guitar. And I still believe after the 6 months, the best value for money instrument I've probably ever owned. And I would happily recommend this instrument to anyone, whether you're a studio musician, whether you're a beginner learning to play, or you're a seasoned professional, whatever that looks like. It is worth your while checking out this guitar, plugging it in and see if it works for you. If you want to know how this guitar actually sounds, check out the previous video I've done here, which goes through variations of sounds, majority of them with effects, just to give you an idea of just the sonic variations that this instrument does produce.